One of the metaphors that's often used in spirituality is spaciousness, that sense of spaciousness. And it's really a subtle concept and really important, because what we tend to think of space is that it's like the space in this room. You know, when we bring things into the room, then we could, you know, from one perspective, we could say, well, there's less space. You know, it's filled with stuff, and now there's less space. But it really depends on how we're defining what the space is. If we're defining it as air, and you bring a lot of stuff into the room, yes, there's less air in the room, but is there less space? If we define space as just that quite mysterious capacity of existence, universe, whatever, that allows objects to appear within it. Right? So when we look up at the stars at night, we can see there's a lot of space and relatively few objects in it. You know, a few specks here and there. You know, but from the point of this planet, what most people are interested in is stuff. You know, things, objects. You know, that's what's important. And so we tend to forget about space and look at the things that occur within that space. Things, stuff, material things. So that's what's important. In ancient China, in the Taoist, early Buddhist period, that went on for, 1,000 years, 1,500 years. There's a common expression, it was just heaven and earth, right? But the symbol for heaven was actually sky. So it was sky and earth, you know, sort of space and material objects. And, you know, what we've, in the West, have taken heaven to be as something out there somewhere in the atmosphere, somehow not present here. That's where bliss lies, not here on earth. So we've translated space for something distant, a place that doesn't exist here, right? So we've sort of denied the possibility for, peace and bliss and those kind of things here on earth. You know, it's sort of, relegated to be sort of a proving ground, are you going to make the cut or not? But the reward is somewhere else, a different place, right? So we've relegated this concept of space to a distant land, not here, but there. Does that make sense at all? So we're somehow that possibility of peace and bliss and feeling at ease with our own being. Somehow that's not possible here, but maybe if we play our cards right, then, at some later point in some other land, then maybe. But this concept of heaven and earth is much more like two aspects of the same thing. There's space, and then there's appearances within space, right? So they're not, in early Taoist, early Chan Buddhist thinking, it was just two aspects of the same thing. It's not like heaven is some distant place. It is that sense of space within which things happen in the world of form. So it's a very good analogy for the sense of awareness. And we're not talking just about physical space anymore. It's just this sense of awareness has that same function that within awareness everything else appears. But the awareness itself is unaffected by whatever appears within it. Very much like, we look up at the sky and we can't say that the sky is disturbed by a bird flying by or a cloud obscuring the sun. It's just all of that happens within the expanse of space. So in a very similar way, awareness is like that. There's the awareness, and then there's these appearances, these sensory appearances of, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, remembering, thinking, all the ways these bodies have the ability to function and sense into the world. And all of that happens within this space of awareness. So when something goes our way and we like it, we feel good, and we think, that's the ticket. Right? But the awareness itself is okay either way. It's okay if it's equally aware when things are going well as when we'd prefer that they go a different way. The awareness is still present. It hasn't run away. It hasn't sort of, just sort of say, wow, I'm out of here. I've had enough of this. We remain present for whatever is happening. And of course, from the perspective of, this body, this mind, of course we have preferences. Of course we like this more than that. But, we've all been around long enough to know that things don't always go our way. So if we're holding out the hope that they will, then we're going to get frustrated. Sometimes they do. That's nice. There's no point in trying to convince ourselves not to feel good about that. But if we insist that life look a particular way, then we're somehow at odds with life. Life happens as it will, and then we're sort of energetically holding ourselves separate, like, yeah, but I don't want that, right? But life has a way of insisting. Life has a way of ultimately requiring us to give ourselves over to the life, right? To allow life to have its way. So the sense of space is really important to sense into, that awareness isn't the purpose of it isn't just to feel good. If we're in it just to feel good, it's a different motivation than if we're in it to find out what's really true. If we're in it to find out what's really true, then sort of the blinders are off, and we get to see whatever life shows us, whatever we're presented with, and the willingness to look, the willingness to see and experience that. So that's really the direction of spiritual surrender. It's surrendering to life. And to be willing to do that. So we've talked about this sense of space or awareness within which everything else arises. The sense of silence is very similar, because there's silence and then there's sound that arises within silence. Right? Without the silence, there wouldn't be a sense of, if there was only sound, it would just be noise. To have any meaning at all, the sound has to arise from silence and drop back into silence. As in music, there has to be silence as the basis, and then a note appears, a melody appears, and it drops back into silence. But the silence, when we catch on to it, the silence is there whether or not the note is playing. It's there in the background. And as soon as the note fades away, silence is still there. The silence hasn't left and come back again. It's the ground of being, you could say, and then there might be an appearance of sound and the dropping away of sound. Very much like awareness, an appearance of thought and a dropping away of thought. Awareness is still there. Was the awareness absent during the thinking? It's the same concept as, is there less space in the room when we bring the chairs in the room? There's less air, but is there less space, right? That sense of just space, that which allows things to appear at a distance, right? Not all bunched up. Right? So if we hold awareness in that sense, then we're not trying to use it to grasp onto any particular feeling. We're not using it to grasp onto any state, any concept. It's just that within which any feeling might arise, any memory might arise, any fear might arise, any hope, any bodily sensation. All of that are appearances within this awareness. But the awareness itself is as untouched by it as the space in this room is untouched by whether we bring chairs into the room or not. Right? The space is actually unchanged whether there's walls here or not. By putting the walls up, we've just objects are appearing within space. We take the walls down, there's still as much space. It was never divided. It was always just that capacity to hold objects within it. So we can look at silence that way, we can look at physical space that way, we can look at awareness that way. It's the same sense of some ground of a capacity, right? A capacity that is undiminished or unenhanced by whatever appears within it. And that's the freedom. It's not a freedom to sort of hold on to a particular state, even a really high state. For one thing, you can't do that. High states are nice, and they come and go. But the peace and the contentment come from sort of relinquishing our personal will to allow this coming and going of whatever appears. And then life happens, and we get to participate. It's not, we're not disabled by that, but we're released from this tension of trying to hold ourselves apart from whatever's happening. Because whatever's happening is happening within what we are. It's not happening to us. Does that make sense? It's just, if what we are is the awareness, everything appears within that awareness. And so whatever the event is, circumstances, feelings, thoughts, whatever, it's within what we are. So what we are is always immensely bigger than whatever appears within it. So what appears isn't foreign. It's not opposed. And when we really see the implications of this awareness or spaciousness or silence or however, whatever facet we want to look at, it's the same thing, but it's seeing that the entire world of form happens within that. Another way of saying that is the entire world of form happens within what you are. Just this mysterious, already complete capacity to be present and aware of that. And so we get to play both roles. We get to play when we step back into that awareness, then we get to play the role of, the witnessing presence, the formless presence, and we also get to play in the world of form as a participant. We get to do both. Okay.
So you're saying that what happens in the world is what I am?
All happens within what you are, yeah. So.
Yeah, you said it the opposite, but you could also say that.
Yeah.
That's big.
Big, yeah.
My first impulse was to say, well, the sky's larger than the space in this room. Whoops, that's not what you said. Everything is one space. Mm-hmm. And in all the stuff that we see, there are just empty objects inside it. Mm-hmm. That's too big for my thinks.
Yeah, but that is our direct experience, right? We've never experienced anything in our whole life outside of the awareness.
So, one of the grounds is silence, one of them is space, and you said another one, and stillness, I guess. Mm-hmm. So there is no movement without stillness. There's no sound without silence. Mm-hmm. And there's no objects without space. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not like two different things, right? Space without objects within space would have no meaning. I mean, what would be the point, right? And then just objects absent any consciousness of those objects, just a purely mechanical world. What would be the point? Yeah.
Perfectly cleared out.
Yeah. So it's really, I mean, it's both those things. I mean, we like to think, oh, well, which is it? Is it consciousness or is it, physical form? And, science wants to say, no, it's physical form and consciousness is a derivative of that. And then there's some, religious sects that say, no, it's all consciousness. Everything else is an illusion. But there's a, I think it's originally in one of the Upanishads, but, it was one of the Eckhart Tolle's favorite quotes. And it was, the world is illusion, only Brahma exists. Brahma being, the divine, let's say. World is illusion, only Brahma exists. Right? If you stop there, then you have a dualistic world. There's the world of form, but no, the real world is this. But the third line is the world is Brahma. Just brings it back around. It's not different. It's two different aspects of the same manifestation, right? And that's the total mystery of it, and that's the total just wonder of it, that there is this ability to be aware of whatever it is that's happening. And also that all of this stuff appears, all of the, these bodies and nature and stars and everything. Amazing. But it doesn't appear like we were taught it appears. It doesn't appear as a physical external world where we're sort of a temporary visitor, little vulnerable in a great big world. That's the model that most of us were given, and our job was to, get it right the first time, or else. We are immersed in it, right? It is, it appears, it has a reality to it. The recognition that what we, in a more fundamental sense, is not another thing. It is not of the world of form. This awareness is fundamentally different from anything else. It doesn't have a form. It doesn't have a origin. It doesn't have a beginning. It doesn't have an end. It is. It's not individual. So it's of a fundamentally different nature that has the capacity to be aware of these bodies, this experience, the experience of being in the world.